Hey guys, what's going on? Today was an exciting day, the NBA trade deadline, and there were a lot of deals that happened. It wasn't the craziest deadline that ever happened, but there were still a lot of deals to talk about. And we will talk about them, or at least most of them. But we're going to save that for another video, because this video is, just for my Dallas Mavericks fans out there, or anyone else who's, kind of interested in the Mavericks. Because the Mavericks were one of the most aggressive teams out there in getting deals done, and I just want to break that down a little more in depth than I might talk about the other trades. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we get too deep into it, let me just give you a quick rundown of all the pieces that moved. So the first trade that we're probably going to talk about is PJ Washington getting traded to the Mavericks, and that was in exchange for Grant Williams, Seth Curry, a 2027 first-round pick that's top 2 protected, and then the Mavericks also got 2 second-round picks in that trade. And then they traded for Daniel Gafford from the Wizards. And in that trade, they gave up Rashawn Holmes and a pick that, this one I didn't fully understand. I couldn't find anything too concrete about it. But I guess there was a third trade where they swapped some a first-round pick for a first-round pick with the Thunder. And then they sent that pick to the Wizards for Daniel Gafford or something like that. Somehow the Wizards are getting a first-round pick that we got from the Thunder somehow. But yeah, so now that we got that out of the way, let's jump into the PJ Washington deal and talk about what PJ Washington can add to this team. Now, over the past couple of days, it's kind of sounded like, oh, the Mavericks are interested in pretty much almost anybody that's out there. Anyone that's 6'7" up and can play a little bit of defense, the Mavericks are interested. But out of all the names that I heard, I think PJ Washington was the one that interested me the most. Maybe Kyle Kuzma a little bit, but I think getting Kyle Kuzma is a bit unrealistic. He makes a lot of money. The amount of stuff we'd have to give up would probably be way too much. So all that aside, PJ Washington was the guy that I really liked the idea of getting him on the Mavericks. And frankly, I wasn't really sure if it was going to happen, but I was thinking it would make a lot of sense because the Hornets, with kind of the roster they have going on right now, PJ Washington's kind of getting pushed to the side, not being featured as prominently as he used to be. And, looking to move on to him for some assets, wouldn't be a bad thing. And I think he can bring a lot to this Dallas Mavericks team, His three-point shooting has been down this year, but historically he's been a pretty decent shooter. And I think with the quality of looks he'll be getting with Luka on the court, finding him for open threes, I think we could see a little bit of a resurgence in his three-point percentage, hopefully at least. In addition to being a capable jump shooter on the offensive side, he's also a threat to catch some lobs, which is a great weapon to have in your offense, especially when Luka is out there. Pick and rolls with Luka or throwing lobs is something that he does very well. He breaks people down on the inside. They kind of collapse on him. He might throw a little lob, pick and roll, all those kind of actions. This will be a good spot for PJ Washington because a few years ago, when I watched a few Hornets games, it really seemed like PJ Washington was the guy that LaMelo Ball was throwing a lot of lobs to, and now we might get a little bit of that action with Luka. Now, this season, the Hornets as a whole have just been a really bad defensive team, and kind of as a result of that, PJ Washington's defense hasn't been the best, but when you look at his career overall, he's been a really good defender pretty much throughout his career. He's been a pretty decent shot blocker. He's pretty long, has long arms. He can be a versatile defender. He can defend on the perimeter a little bit. He can defend inside a little bit. It'll be a good addition to this Mavericks defense that definitely needs some help. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a star kind of guy. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there is, a certain amount of upside there with him. This is a guy that scored multiple 40-point games in his career. And I think he could be a good third, maybe fourth option on this Dallas team. I think, he'll have some big nights. He'll have a lot of nights where he goes and gets you 20, 25 maybe. I think the open shots that Luka's going to generate for him will be big. He's going to get a lot of easy dunks. He's a good transition finisher. I think there's just a lot to like about this guy, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And playing in Charlotte, he's never really had the opportunity to be really playing for anything other than, this is a young team that's developing. Here in Dallas, I think he'll get a better chance to play for a winning team, kind of contribute to winning basketball. And I'm excited to see what he can do for Dallas. So overall, I really like the addition of PJ Washington. But before we move on, let's take a look at what we gave up for PJ Washington and see if it was worth it. So we gave up Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and 2027 top 2 protected first round pick. We also got 2 second round picks back, which is, decent. So Grant Williams, when we signed him, I thought he was going to be a really good piece for this team. And at the start of the season, he was. He was on a tear. He was lighting it up from 3. He was just a really good player overall for us. But then he went out with some injury, and when he came back, he just never really recaptured that magic. And he's been fine. He's been a decent player. He's been hitting threes at an okay enough rate. He plays solid defense. But, I hate to say it, but the more I watched him as the season went on, it seemed like he did seem kind of expendable. Like, we didn't really necessarily need him on the roster, especially when we're getting back someone like PJ Washington in return. And then when we talk about Seth Curry, when we signed Seth Curry this offseason, I was actually really excited. Seth Curry's always been someone that I liked. I was still kind of bitter that we let him go in the first place in a trade. But, he just hasn't really been playing much this year. Jason Kidd doesn't play him a lot, other than in games where, no one's playing. And even then, he hasn't been hitting his shots like he normally does. So I can't be too mad that we traded a guy that literally almost never gets off the bench, and I wish him all the best in Charlotte. His dad played there. I think they'll probably keep him around. I don't think they're going to waive him, but hopefully he can, do a little stuff in Charlotte with his dad commentating games. I think that'll be a really cool story. And then we get to that first round pick. It's only top 2 protected, not even top 3 protected. Obviously you'd want it to be a top 5 protected, just in case we're not good then. But 2027, so let me think. This is 2024, the 5, 6, 7 season. Assuming Luka's still around, we should be a good team. It'll probably be a later pick in the draft. You kind of look at it, it's that's a lot to give up for PJ Washington. But, sometimes, first round picks, they kind of don't turn into anything. But other times, it's oh, how could we trade that pick? We could have got this guy, this guy, this guy. So right now, maybe it was a bit of a lot for PJ Washington. But I'm going to choose to kind of be in the moment and be I really like PJ Washington, so if we gave up that pick, so be it. But I will say, the Mavericks seem to love giving up first-round picks. They have shipped almost all of their first-round picks out that they can. Obviously they can't send them out, all of them. It's not allowed. But they love sending out the ones that they can. And now let's talk about the second big trade that went down with the Mavericks. Trading Rashawn Holmes and that draft compensation, which I believe is a first-round pick coming from Thunder, somehow ending up with the Wizards. For Daniel Gafford. And this one, I think a lot of people are maybe a little more... Well, actually, I don't know this for sure. I haven't really gotten many other people's reactions on this. But I think maybe a lot of people might be a little more hesitant to look at this one positively. But overall, I think it is a good trade, especially with Derek Lively missing a lot of time. Daniel Gafford is a really good defensive center who can come in and play good defense. So with the addition of PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, you would hope that means our defense will see an uptick in quality. And here's one small thing about Daniel Gafford that I think is sort of impressive. Box plus minus isn't a perfect stat. It doesn't totally encapture everything that goes on in basketball. But being on a team as bad as the Wizards are and playing, he's played 26 minutes a game, Daniel Gafford, having a positive box plus minus, being on that bad of a team, playing that many minutes, that's pretty impressive. So, he's a good defender. He's an efficient finisher. He doesn't take a lot of crazy shots. Most of his shots are dunks or just layups near the rim. But he's very efficient, one of the most efficient players in the league. Gets a lot of blocks, rebounds the ball pretty well, will probably be the best rebounder on the team other than maybe Derek Lively. Dwight Powell's an okay rebounder, nothing special. And as much as I love Maxi Kleber, good defender, good player, he's not a good rebounder. So Daniel Gafford will definitely help out in that regard. So yeah, like I said, he's a great shot blocker. He's also a guy that, might get a couple steals here and there. Finishing near the rim, like I said, great guy to throw some lobs to. So really, we brought in two guys who are a big threat for Luka to throw some lobs. PJ Washington can kind of score on his own a little bit when necessary. He can shoot some threes, finish in transition. Then we have Daniel Gafford, who's playing defense in the middle, especially with Derek Lively out. Overall, I like both of these pieces that we brought in. I think they could be big contributors to this team. I think it's good depth for us to go into the playoffs, go in this playoff race. Right now, we're still in the play-in. Hopefully we can get out of the play-in. Hopefully. But, even PJ Washington, he's the kind of guy that could, win you a quarter in a playoff game, possibly. Just get really hot in a quarter and kind of win you that one game. And, as small of a thing that might sound, that could be huge. That could be the difference of getting eliminated and going to the next round. So I like the two guys we brought in. I really do. That being said, the Mavericks have kind of continued their trend of, just trading draft capital. Like, just send out all the draft capital. Just bring in these guys. Just keep churning it around. And, I can't be too mad, especially when I like both the players they brought in. But, at a certain point, you do kind of have to worry. It's like, we keep trading all these picks, and it's like we're kind of backing ourselves into a corner. But also, I guess I will say to that, PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, they're both under contract till 2026, I believe, not on too big of deals. So in the future, if things do kind of go awry, and we need to, they could be some tradable pieces for us. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully this is a good team with, how it's constructed. But, I think that's at least worth keeping in mind. But yeah, that's all I really had for you guys today. I just wanted to kind of break down what the Mavericks did at this offseason. Oh, wait, no. Before I go, I forgot. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Wizards. I like this trade for the Wizards, not because they got better or because they're turning it down or anything. I'm just a big fan of Marvin Bagley, and I just want to see Marvin Bagley go out there and hoop. I know he's a little banged up right now, and he's missed like 3 or 4 straight games, but I just want to see Marvin Bagley go get some buckets. Yeah, I just needed to say that. Big Marvin Bagley fan here. Not even that I think he's going to be like amazing. I just like watching him play for some reason. I don't know. It's good. I like him. Okay, now that's all I really had to say. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you guys thought about the Mavericks moves or even the Wizards or Hornets moves. Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, maybe leave it a like, subscribe. It really helps me out, and I'd really appreciate it. For all you guys who are already subscribed, thank you. I appreciate you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.